So for week 10, I heard you. Most of you seem to like me going over my code, so I'll do some level of detail here. So for week 10, right, we had the update. So we've done the create, we've done the read. In some sense, we've done the delete. We may have done it differently, but this is all about, sorry, the D for update, the U for delete, update. I can talk, just not this language. Okay, so the first thing is just my form, right? So you need form validation. So we know how to do this now. We saw, so here's my event listener on my form. I'm listening for a submit. I'm going to capture the E, which happens as a result of the submit, so that I can grab, actually, you know what? I'm not actually using the E. So that's a really good point, and I will fix this, is if I'm not using the E, I should just get rid of it. I forgot I was actually referencing the values in the input fields because I've given the form and querying for that, the query selector for the form itself. Right, so then I can just go off form.elements.current time, and that's where you really want to name your, when you're looking at your index file, when you can give it a name, right? Remember, your name is what you're going to use in JavaScript, so it's okay to use camel case when you're there, and that's that form ID. Okay, so going back here, going back to app, so we know that once I hit submit, I'm preventing that default behavior. Make sure you don't forget that, because if you do, it won't actually submit. Actually, you'll notice if you ever forget it that it's not going to do what you want it to. And the URL, and Andrew talked about this, is your form fields get appended to the URL, and it's just not what you want. So then I set up that error message. This is kind of from last time, but I didn't do one last time. But then I set up my constants. And by the way, I had realized I'd forgotten to do this a couple of videos ago. So do not forget to define them inside of the event listener. Then I pulled off those items that I needed. And then I just did some simple validation. And I did ORs, right? So if either any of this was 0, right, then it would flag that error. And actually, I realized I was just playing around today, and I need to actually fix this, because I was, and this is a really good point, and I was just playing with this a minute ago, when I have my options, right, for my select, I can make these actually numeric values. And really, they need to be numeric values, because you're going to learn about coercion in week 12, right before the dev. And I realized that I didn't need to make these strings, but because coercion was happening and I didn't realize it, I probably need to, because my code will be more clear. But anyway, matter of fact, I think I may have actually broke my validation. No, it's still throwing it here, which is good. Okay, so then I grab those values, or I grab the checked status or not, and then I grab the value for the day. I run some validation, and then I create, oh, look at that. I forgot to create that new object. See? And again, that's why you don't want to do that, because then that is global. So I'm glad I saw that. So that actually could just be const right there. Okay, so ran it again. And there it is. Okay, so I set up the things I want to save on my object. And in my case, I don't immediately push it because I actually have another function that I run here. So let me just actually go ahead and submit this so we can walk through the code at that point. So I'll do just some various times, 9 o'clock. I am driving. The day of the week is Monday. So if I hit submit, remember, when you're setting your breakpoints inside of your event listeners for your form, in order to activate that, you actually have to submit it. Okay, so now I'm going to pass that into my function. And so here, and by the way, this code is no different. I believe there's really nothing here different, especially on this first part where I determine time before gem. And because I'm passing in that big object, not big, it's just an object with several key value pairs, right? Then I would make a calculation, do some logic for my decision, and then I would determine list. So this is where, we're stacking functions. So you can already see that if I look at my call stack, I called this function, I'm in process suggestions from app.js 31. Okay, so as we go into more, and now I'm going to call another one because now we're calling, and then you see the stack starts to grow, and that's the idea of those stackable functions. Okay, so I'm setting, again, this there's really nothing new in this part. Except I did change it, I think, last time to actually be a list. I believe I did do that. Oh, maybe that was on week 11. Okay, so then I set up, so now the returns a value, or actually an object, okay? Oh, look at this. I'm a bad girl. I'm not a bad girl, but actually it should be when I return processed suggestions. Okay, I got to stop troubleshooting my code as I'm going through it. That's probably not helpful. Okay, I have to do it. I can't not do it. I got to go over to my functions and look at the way I did that in my process functions because I think I forgot to declare that. God, that's embarrassing. So actually, this should be const. Yes, and actually, if I look closely, the editor was trying to help me because it was in. Did you notice this? If you ever see that, that red actually is telling you in that case. It's like, where is that? Okay. Now, morning task is a global variable, so that's okay. All right. So anyway, stepping through this. So this is where I'm taking that object I'd already created and I'm adding to it the day. I'm adding that UUID. Remember when you get something like this, this is that UUID code running. You can either jump out of it, you can stop it. Eventually, if you just keep stepping it, it'll actually make you, I think I can step into the next function call. So there might be a couple. But one thing you can do is rather than just to let it all run, let's let that all run. Now it's back, okay? But one thing you can do right before when you're stepping into code and you hit something like a UUID, we know it's going to load an external file, just jump over it. That way you don't have to watch that happen. You can just watch what comes back, okay? And then we're appending. Now what I did is I ended up setting up from a new value called inputs and whatever was on that object I passed in so I could use it later. Okay, and then I pushed that and then I did the save, which is great. And this is where you're just converting it into JSON. Nothing new here really. And then just rendering it, right? So I'm just rendering this forward. So I'm going to go ahead and run all this. I don't need any of this because this is not really any different. Now what I did do is did a little CSS to show that. And this is what I was talking about in my coverage video here was really the idea that, and let me go ahead and let this run, let it run through, and then it's done. But this is really where you rate this suggestion, right? And this is where I'm going to give it a value, right? Now this is where now we have it on the rate. And what I did is I ended up writing a function. Oh, actually, I can fix some of this now for new things we've learned, but that's future weeks. But what I did here is I just had a show inputs from the suggestion and the suggestion I got from doing the query against all those morning tasks. So I made sure I had the right one, reading off the hash at the top to get that. So then I run all these to create the span, create an LI, create LIs. So that's what you see here. Then I rate it. Okay, so in this case, here's my edit. I decided not to do actually the values, but I just decided to give them a rating to where they could do a rate. And then once they hit submit, so then I did, in addition to the function, I wrote a event listener for this form here, and then saving the suggestion, so whatever they rated it to. So if I was to look at morning task right now, I drop this down, okay, so then I can see those morning tasks. Is right? How come it's like too many? But if you drop down, you can see those inputs are sitting there. And as soon as I hit rate, as soon as I hit this, submit this rate, and then I do morning task. And what happens is that if I drop that down real quick, And we can see, yeah, that's the one. So that you can see I updated, this is my update function. And so what I did is I updated the array of objects, of course, storing it in local storage, but the one in memory that we're dealing with, I updated it. So that was my U. Okay. Was this helpful? I hope so. I don't know if I think I've seen maybe 2 submissions. So this is nice. Thanks everyone for getting it out there early. I hope this helps you. See you later.